want to have an app, it'll probably never happen, where you click on a player and it tells you exactly the probability of a regression or the probability of certain points scored, whatever, based on certain things that that player did maybe the year before, based on age, based on other factors. Similarly, in games, the probability of certain outcomes in games, just based on historical evidence. I have enough spreadsheets, enough data to do something. It just wouldn't be as good as I'd want it to be, and I don't know how to create an app, so it's all kind of moot. But there's an example I want to talk about today, a spreadsheet I have that says something. It's very little, but it says something, and so I want to talk about it. There was a game a couple of years ago where the Raiders played the Chargers. Raiders were coming off a shutout loss, and they played at home against the Chargers. They won 63-21. It was week 14. Chargers at that point, I think Easton Stick was their starting quarterback. It was one of those games where if you started the Raiders defense, you won your playoff game pretty much. It was a disaster for the Chargers, and it was kind of a take out your frustration on the other team situation for the Raiders, who finished under 500 that season. As soon as that game happened, I set to work on creating two spreadsheets. And one of them was, I decided to go back to the year 2000 because I felt like that was a good, it wouldn't make the project impossible, but would still give a lot of interesting data. And the first was all shutouts that had taken place since 2000 and what happened the next game. And the other was, and I can talk about this in a future podcast, is blowout losses. So every blowout loss since 2000, where a blowout loss is 30 points or more. And really, really interesting data. For the blowout losses, I'm not going to talk about that now. Like I said, I just want to focus on one. There are about 350 blowout losses since 2000, and about 165, give or take, shutout losses, all regular season, since 2000. I did exclude shutout losses in the final week of the season because there is no next game. So those are removed. So if any of you were keeping track at home, you might say, oh, there's a few more that you forgot. I get it. I accept it. And I apologize. Here's the most important data and why I want to mention it. In games, basically after a shutout loss, going into a shutout loss, the team that gets shut out historically since 2000 has averaged exactly 19 points per game and has given up on average 23.4 points per game. That's a 4.4 gap, negative gap. That's what they did before the shutout. Then the shutout happens. And that gap shrinks from 4.4 to 2.3. So after a shutout, teams average 0.4 more points per game, and their defense steps up and gives up 1.7 fewer points per game. I thought that was pretty interesting. Even when you take out the Raiders' crushing victory, it's still they would still average. Teams that get shut out would still average more points after the shutout than before since 2000. So yes, that's, a pretty huge victory, 42-point victory, and it skews it a little bit, but not as much as you'd think given the fact there's 165 plus data points. That alone is not enough. Like, you can't really go off of that. There's not a lot to do. If a team gets shut out in week 3 and you're looking ahead to week 4, and what are they going to do? You can't really, pick a quarterback for that team and say, well, they're going to get 0.4 more points than last week. And, or 0.4 more points, than they've averaged going into last week. So if they averaged 18 points, well, they can get 18.4. That should be good for, 50 more yards passing or 12 more yards passing, whatever it is. it doesn't work that way, right? We need to make it more granular. We need to figure out actually how this could help us, even if it's helping us only a few times in the season. So I've got other columns to the spreadsheet that breaks down whether their shutout occurred when they were at home or on the road, and then what happened the next game. That next game is critical. And what we find out is that their win-loss percentage, when they get shut out on the road, then their win-loss percentage in the next game when they stay on the road is 6 wins and 13 losses. They generally lose most of those games. That is the lowest percentage, winning percentage. If you get shut out on the road and you stay on the road, historically, that's it. You're probably not going to win. You have, less than a third chance. If you are at home when you get shut out, and then you go on the road, you're only marginally better, 34.4% win rate. But when you're on the road and get shut out, and then you play at home, your winning percentage goes up to 47.3%. That might not sound like a lot, but collectively, the overall win percentage of every team that's been shut out since 2000 in the whole season, like how they do, is 39.4% victory win rate. So if their average win rate for all those shutout teams is 39.4, but when they go back home after losing on the road, their win rate is 47.3%, it's a pretty significant difference. Those are teams like the Raiders who normally would not win in that situation, but in this case, due to the Chargers being decimated by injuries and the Raiders being, let's say, motivated, whatever it is, they win, and they win crushingly. The biggest win rate, 60% chance, is when you get shut out at home and you stay at home. You're not getting on a plane, you're not getting on a bus, whatever. You are right there at home. You're going back to the stadium or your practice field, and you are getting ready for the next game, and you're going back to that home field. And that is the best win rate, 60%. I think that's fascinating. If a team gets shut out, this year at home, and then they play at home again, there is a pretty good chance based on historical numbers that they're going to win this time. And by winning, we can assume that in betting on them is a little bit better, knowing that they have that 60% win rate historically. Every team is different. I get it. But when these teams have a win rate collectively of less than 40%, to say they win 60% of the time when they go back home, stay home, and play, that's a pretty big deal. Here's the last thing I'll mention, and it comes down to points. This is where the fantasy implications really matter. For teams that get shut out on the road, that then stay on the road in their next game, in that next game, they average 16.2 points per game. Now remember, that's off from 19.4 average. So teams that are on the road that stay on the road, not only do they have a terrible win rate, but they're scoring fewer points than their average. So the rebound is not significant. It's still much better than getting shut out, but it's not significant. The bigger deal is when you're at home and you get shut out and then you stay at home, you average 22.5 points per game. That's a little more than a touchdown. If touchdown is 6 points, 6.3 points. More if you're at home on a shutout, the next game playing at home. That is a big deal. Two teams, let's say in week 7, get shut out. One of them gets shut out on the road. They play their next game on the road. Second team gets shut out at home. They play their next game at home. What this is saying is that historically, the team that stays at home, statistically, on average, would get about an extra touchdown a game or 2 extra field goals, whatever you want to call it. That matters. In a game of inches, again, I hate that cliche, whatever you call it, but I do believe in a game of percentages, which is the fantasy way of thinking about it. It's the 50.1% chance kind of idea. In this game of fantasy, where you have a slight probability of one player on one team getting an extra touchdown versus a player at the same position on another team, That's actionable. That is stuff you can use to your advantage. And when you look at these numbers and the fact that it goes back to 2000 and the fact that that gap is 6.3 points, it's hard to look away from that and say that's insignificant. I'm BJ Riddell, Fantasy Football for Winners. Follow me on the blog, email anytime. We'll see you tomorrow.